Hello and welcome to Builders, the podcast spotlighting leaders shaping the future of technology and business. I'm Lee Haynes, and today we're thrilled to be joined by Mina Boström Nakicenovic, Chief Technology Officer at Flightradar24. Mina is a seasoned leader who brings together tech strategy, organizational design, and sustainable growth with a unique lens on what it means to lead in a data-first, global-facing tech company. At Flightradar24, one of the world's most recognizable flight tracking platforms, she's helping steer a company that's not just a consumer brand, but a high-performance data engine, supporting aviation professionals, enthusiasts, and businesses worldwide. We're going to explore her approach to leadership, scaling teams, turning raw data into strategic assets, and what it means to grow a company that flies under the radar while being watched by millions. Mina, a warm welcome to Builders. How's it going?
Hello. Well, thank you. And thank you very much for inviting me.
A pleasure to have you here. Let's get straight to it, shall we? But before talking about leadership and strategy and scaling and whatnot, I'd like to just start with your story, your journey. Can you tell us a little bit about your career journey? What led you to your current role as CTO at Flightradar24?
Yes, of course. It's maybe a little bit unusual way, although you have a different ways for career path. So I started more than 20 years ago. I'm an engineer. I studied electrical engineering and computer science, and I started my career as a developer. And what is interesting with my career, I worked as a developer and software architect for almost 15 years within different industries, mainly within the fintech industry and gaming industry. But then all the time, my main goal was to create software products which creates value for customers. And then along the way, while I was deeply in that beautiful technical world, designing my software architecture and coding, I realized that there are other things that has an influence if the software product finally would create value for customers. So there are other things, not only technical architecture, technical strategy, also business strategy, product strategy, leadership, organizational structure, situation of the market. So all those things influence and has a final say if the product will create a value for customers. So that's why I decided to jump on the other side to have a managerial role in order to influence all those things, and especially intersection between those domains, like aligning product strategy with the tech strategy or leadership and so on. So the last almost 10 years, I have been working in the different roles as a technical manager, head of development, and then as a CTO, Chief Technology Officer, both here at Flightradar, and my previous role was a CTO at Paradox Interactive gaming company.
Fantastic. And you've clearly then worked across different industries. How have these experiences shaped your approach to leadership and technology today?
Yes, it changed a lot. And what is also interesting with my career, when I get that big interest to influence other domains, I can say that I developed from being an individual contributor developer to being a C-level executive just within 3 years.
Oh, wow.
But the main reason behind that is my big motivation and interest. So I think for being a leader or changing a role, first, you need to have a genuine interest that you don't develop just because it's offered career path at your company. The next step is doing that. I prefer that you create an interest for something, that you want to learn more about that you want to contribute, influence, and then you choose the right role for that, considering those facts. And of course, as an individual contributor, I didn't know too much about leading others. I knew just about self-leadership and leading myself. But of course, I learned a lot along the way. So do you want me to tell you my takeaways now? Or
Yeah, please do.
Yes, good. One thing that I'm a very good observer. I think it's very important that you observe yourself and other people because it contributes to that self-awareness. Then you have a better picture on how you are applying leadership or whatever you are doing. And also learning both from your own mistakes, but also learning from the other mistakes. Everything belongs to that growth mindset. And then just within that leadership career path, in that leadership pipeline, if you can call it, I read a lot of books, and I always remember one very important thing, that there are different steps when you're developing yourself as a leader. And usually I prefer saying leader, not a manager, because I think leader is much broader. Managing is just a subset of all leadership skills. But on each level of the leadership, that stairs or pipeline, there are different skills for leadership that is needed in order to succeed in that role. And it's very important that you are aware about that. What does it mean? For example, you start as an individual contributor, and then people think you are maybe good developer, software architect, and then they offer you a role to become a team lead or team manager. And here is the tricky part. Usually you believe, oh, I got promoted because all those great things that I did before, I will just continue doing that and I will be successful in my role. But it's not. Every time when you change the role, there are other type of skills that is needed in order that you succeed in a role. So I think it's very important always to think, what are the skills that is needed from me in order that I succeed in a role? As leading one team, or if you are leading managers, a couple of different teams, or if you are manager of the whole business unit, or if you are manager on a C level. So I think there are many other things, and probably we are going to mention about leadership skills and so on. But for me, the most important in order to succeed in your role is interest, self-awareness, that you question yourself all the time. And there is also that wonderful question. Do other people see on me in the same way how I see on myself? So now we are entering that philosophical questions, but it's really important in order, if you really want to be a good leader for the others, then you need to ask yourself all those questions and always reassess, think on this level of leadership stairs, what is needed for my role to be successful.
And yeah, talking here obviously about the importance of kind of self-leadership. How do you cultivate self-leadership within your teams? And also, what does it look like in practice?
Very good question. And it's also connected to other things. Why do you want to have managers or people with developed self-leadership skills? In my picture, the main goal when you're a leader, when you have teams, is that you apply something that is called leadership by intent. So that you define wanted outcomes and leave self-driven people to find a good strategy to develop that. There are many benefits of it. First, it creates motivation for the people because you are not doing that command control leadership that I don't believe in. Also, usually you're surrounded by experts that are better than you in certain areas. You are there just to coordinate and to be responsible for that big picture. But then you get the most of creativity from them. So in order to achieve with such a leadership, to build autonomous team, you need to have people who are accountable and responsible for themselves. How one leader can achieve that with his or her team, without, apart from just explaining to the teams what is expected, is by setting clear expectations. So first, if you define the clear expectations, wanted outcome, and then follow people along the way, then you will develop in them that self-leadership and being more autonomous. And of course, people are on different level. Junior, mid, senior, depending on the role. Also, maybe you can be senior regarding age, but maybe junior regarding the role that you have. Also, you always need to think as a leader, should I apply teaching on that person, coaching, developing, which skills I should apply? Should I follow a little bit more or just leave the person and so on? But I think it's, yes, you need to act as a manager to set up a scene for that set leadership, and then you will get self-driven individuals and autonomous teams.
And we'll talk a little bit more about people, about talent and hiring very, very shortly. But I'd just like to get your take on how, like, when tech strategy meets leadership here, it's like the intersection of business and technology, essentially. How do you approach integrating business strategy with technology leadership at Flightradar?
Yes, it's a very good question. I was thinking about those things for a long time and created some my own perspectives based on many others' experiences. So it's nothing super special, but I think it's all the time. It's so important to think when you develop software and hardware to think about three different domains. One is technology, the another is business and product, and then it's a leadership. And then the most important is to think those intersections between those domains. Because if you set a business strategy or product strategy, it tells you what you should develop as an organization, like product or service, in order to achieve your company mission. But then tech strategy says how you do that. So it's going hand in hand. Also, there is another important thing, especially from technology strategy perspective. Usually many companies, and also it relates to what is the phase of the company, if it is a new startup company or more developed, mature like company, what is that maturity level of the company. What I wanted to say, usually you set some business strategy, product strategy, we want to come here for in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and you start executing on your strategy. But reality happens that you need to do those tactical solutions along the way. Oh, just for this market or just to get these customers, I need to do one-off solution. I need to diverge from the strategy. And that's perfectly fine because that's reality. Usually you can't predict everything in advance, like how you execute on your strategy. But you need to think about that gap divergence from strategic solutions and tactical solutions. Because if that gap becomes bigger and bigger, it will result in a big long-term costs. And especially from tech perspective, it means that you build a lot of those so-called one-off solutions and creating a lot of technical debt. Yeah. And furthermore, it's not only that you implemented one solution, you need to maintain that forever. There are not so many companies that are sitting and removing code and services. So I would say mind the gap between those strategic solutions and execution on strategy and tactical solutions. Because if the gap is big, tech will create such a big technical debt, and then it's really difficult and hard to work with that.
Yeah, no, really, really, really well put. I think it's super important to, where possible, of course, kind of ensure that tech and business evolve in tandem, right, rather than in silos. But to talk a little bit about technical teams, talent and career paths and everything, Flightradar is known for a strong technical team. Yet it's not a huge company by headcount, right? And in addition, hiring technical talent is always, very, very challenging. When hiring for technical roles, what qualities do you emphasize most? Are you, for example, primarily looking for deep technical expertise, a strong product sense, or something else?
Yes, it's also a very good question, and it's very relative. Now I will give some more broader answer, and then we'll focus on Flightradar, because I think it depends on the maturity level of the company and what you want to achieve, and different phases requires different skills and different profiles that you would like to recruit. And also another thing that is important is how you want to build your organizational structure. And then I have also a lot of thoughts on that. So I will weave in also those perspectives. But usually if it is if technical company starts, usually you start recruiting just engineers because you think, if I have a bunch of smart people, smart developers, they're going to do everything. And then you're mainly focusing on the technical skills, and also you're usually focusing on those high performance people, because if the company is much smaller, usually the role requires that you do a little bit of everything and that you are really like a high performer yourself. But then as company grows, then and you start building the teams, you realized what is more important for me from the company perspective, to have high performer teams, not those local champions.
Yep.
So you need to work out along the way with the company growth. And it's not easy, because usually those people who built the company, they just would like to continue doing what they did before. And that's why I'm coming back to that question from the beginning. All the time, you need to think about maturity level that the company is, and what is needed for that maturity level in order to reach the next step, both from leadership perspective, from technical skills, and so on. So I think, and that is for Flightradar, as we are growing and we are applying smart growth, not rapid growth. I will explain you what it means. But anyway, we are growing. And we realized that shift from focusing on local champions, high performers, to build high performer teams. So it's one shift. Yep. Another thing that I think it's very important when you build your organizational structure, that I saw at many different companies, I was also part of them, or just by observing. I think the main goal should be to keep flat organization, so-called horizontally scaled, that you don't add many layers in the organization, that you don't get those vertically scaled organizations with many different levels, because those organizations usually become very complex. They become slow because all decision-making needs going up and down. Yeah. Yes, exactly. And usually cost increase directly and so on. And many people know that theoretically. But in reality, what happens? So before I joined the Flightradar, I saw at many different companies, they're saying, oh, now business is going very good. Now we are everyone wants to have our offering. Now we are going to recruit a lot of people and so on. And since I can't manage that recruitment, they're saying, oh, it's better to put a manager here, and then he will or she will recruit people for the team. But it's so risky to do that, but because you directly put additional managerial layer, you directly build a vertically scaled organization, and it's not good because of all those things that I mentioned. Also, when we were talking about career path at the organization, you also need to think, what do I have for career path in my organization? Because if the only way for people to develop is managerial path, if you don't have those individual contributor specialist paths, people will automatically want it to be managers and will enforce to build a vertically scaled organization. So there's so many different things, and like what we are doing at Flightradar. So we are aware, and that's why I'm here, because I really don't believe in those rapid, crazy growths, recruiting a lot of people, directly putting layers of managers, but thinking all the time, what is really a role that I need to recruit, and maybe don't plan your business success ahead of time too much, that you think, oh, first we will build a team and deliver, but all the time be on that high level. Can I really manage with this number of headcounts, and slowly adding when it's really that high level, that you can't manage leading more people. And also, I don't believe in having just small teams that you have just 2-3 people and put a manager on, that I saw at many organizations. So, but it also relates to that building autonomous and self-driven teams. If you have autonomous teams and self-driven people, then one manager can handle much more direct reports than when you really need to apply. So as you see, everything is interweaved together. But what is important now, I will emphasize again, it's very important to think constantly how you build that organizational structure and try to maintain, to add those additional managerial layers as late as possible. Also to think about developing different career paths, because if you have only managerial, it will force you to do that vertically scaled organization.
And so you've kind of developed models around optimal company growth. You mentioned like smart
I don't know,
growth, right?
Yes.
Can you walk us through what do these kind of look like? How do they influence your team planning, for example?
Yes, exactly. Maybe they're a little bit on a higher level, like the wanted outcome that I would like to achieve, and then you break it down and map. But I would say, like regarding that smart or rapid growth, like there are 4 areas that you need to think about. First, we talked about how you build your organizational structure and how you promote people to managers. I really think that you should be very, very careful by doing that, not only because of those building vertically scaled structures with many layers, but also bearing in mind, once when you are promoted to manager, there is no way back. And usually I saw many companies when like business starts to struggle, the first people who are go, it's those middle managers. You're removing layers. And I think it's a pity. Why you first add layers and then remove? You can do that smarter.
Yeah.
So, of course, you need to develop people, but I think just doing that a little bit more in a smarter way and a little bit slowly. First promote to team lead and so on. And also what I don't believe in that you divide for managers. I saw at many organizations, and it was popular maybe 5-10 years ago, that you build a metrics organization, that you have a like business leader, people for which are responsible for business delivery, and then admin managers who are responsible for developing people. I think there are more cons than pros of such structure, because I think that each manager, like who are leading teams, must have both parts in himself or herself, both to lead people, but also to understand what business requires, to have that sense for business urgency, kind of. Otherwise, it can be mismatch and a lot of negative things can happen from the organizational perspective. And we also talked about career paths. Completely another domain is how you work with your core offerings, core value propositions, and new initiatives and innovation projects. Of course, everyone learned during the last 20 years that it's very important to innovate, to find a new potential revenue drivers, the new potential offerings. But what I observed by analyzing many different companies, that it's so difficult to have a right balance between your core value proposition, core products, which are usually main revenue drivers, and other smaller initiatives. So usually, companies are ending up in 2 different scenarios. One scenario is, and usually it's connected with the rapid growth, everything's goes well, we are, everyone wants to have our products, like the market is great, the revenue is doing great. And then people say, oh, now we have a capability to innovate. And then they start with a lot of innovative projects, but they forget kind of about their core products, because they need to be also, you need to care about them. And then they realize, oh, no, our revenue is starting drops down, what is happening? And then they close all innovation projects, although it's not a good combination. So my message is all the time to think about that balance, about core products, which are main revenue drivers, and new initiatives. Of course, you need to have new initiatives, but don't just focus on them or just focus on core products. I saw also some companies that were afraid of innovating. They were just sticking blindly for the, not blindly, but at all cost for the core products, and then market just competitors run over them. So that's why it's so important to balance out. And if I can add another thing, my observation, it's more about psychology than technology, regarding successful companies that manage to do a great products for the market. There is some that I think it's psychological effect when you succeed as a company, that you believe everything that I do, it will result in a success again. And instead of thinking all the time, what is my competitive advantage? What differs me from other competitors or other companies on the market, and invest just in that, people start investing. Maybe we can, although maybe it's a gaming company, they say, oh, we can build our own CRM system or payment provider and so on. And I think it's very risky, because you start building some products that are not part of your core competitive advantage. and then you lose energy and time and focus. That is the most important.
Yeah.
So it's also a very important area to think when you are with that rapid growth, that you are all the time thinking, no, I should not think that I'm able to develop everything. And especially from a technical perspective, it's so pity that you develop something in 2-3 years and just do sunk cost, because I'm saying technology, it always stays in your system and you need to maintain that part of code forever. Like you never can get rid of all those unfinished or closed projects.
What we're essentially saying here is that growth can be really, really exciting, but it can also be a bit of a trap, right? There are these kind of common pitfalls that you're maybe alluding to here. But are there any other kind of key factors to achieving like sustainable growth without, say, sacrificing team culture or product quality or strategic focus? What would you say are other key factors?
Yes, there are a couple of key factors. There is no like silver bullet or one formula that covers how you should grow. But I think the most important is to be awareness, that you think about all mistakes that maybe you did before or that you saw that other companies did and try to learn from that. But also equally important is not to just blindly copy and paste, but adjust to your company situation, maturity level, capabilities at the company. So it's like, yes, I don't know how to say, like, I would say it's just a common sense, like to think a little bit, to try not to be blinded by success or, to learn from the previous mistakes. But it's also, as I'm emphasizing all the time, always be aware of the maturity level where the company is and not trying to do something else, because maybe you are not like in the same situation as other company and you can't apply exactly those things. But I think if you think about organizational structure that you are building, career paths, about your offering, core value proposition, how you set the business strategy, product strategy, tech strategy, if you're always keeping focus and asking yourself, what is the most important now? What is the more and it's not easy, of course. I think you can achieve pretty far. And since I work in aviation industry, I like to do one metaphor for all leaders and all people, both formal and informal. Like you all the time, you need to be a good helicopter pilot. What does it mean? Helicopter has that ability to fly high, to see the big picture, but quickly go down and fix the details. And then you're changing that altitude. And it's not easy, because I think many companies lose focus because you're focused, now recruitment, we need to move the office, we have more people. And then you forget your core products, for example, or something. So I think that it's so important, key factor all the time, to try to see the big picture holistically and understand what is the focus areas for this period, and then go down and fix that. And additionally, not to have 15 the most important things, then you're going to fail. And it's so difficult to choose just 3 or 5.
Yeah. No, nice metaphor as well. And we'll talk a little bit more about the product and also the data around kind of Flightradar very, very shortly. But I just want to hear a little bit about, Flightradar's like perception of it versus kind of scale, essentially, because it's got massive like brand recognition, right? But as we mentioned before, it's a relatively small organization still. How do you like manage expectations? I mean, both internally, externally as well, around what a company of that size can deliver. I mean, are there challenges that arise when maybe the company's public visibility perhaps kind of, I don't know, outpaces its internal scale? Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I know. It's a good question. And there are different things that I would like to say about that. So many people perceive us on a much, much bigger company because we are worldwide the most famous flight tracker. And then people expect that we had a lot of engineering teams and all other teams, but we are not there. What is really beneficial, maybe I can touch upon how Flightradar started and how it grew. So it started as a hobby project. So like the founders didn't see like a big business potential directly. It was their hobby project, the work with the ADS-B signals. Maybe I can just shortly explain what is our solution based on. So all planes, everything that is flying on that certain altitude needs to emit a certain radio signal that is called the ADS-B signal. It's based on a GPS methodology, contains GPS position and information about that flight. And it's a public signal, free to collect. But in order to be able to collect that signal, you need to have a small hardware device receiver, which listen to that frequency and antenna, and then you do very advanced data processing. Anyway, our founders were like really into that being aviation geeks, radio amateurs, ADS-B signal, and they started as a hobby project. If you place receivers all over the world, can we achieve with that worldwide coverage? And they managed that. But one important thing, how we grew, and I think, and we are still doing that, it's that tight collaboration with our customers, then that I call sense and respond. So we are still having that very close connection to all our customers. And nowadays we have both B2C and B2B customers.
Yeah.
We have a big support team listening to all feedback, not coming directly to us on social media, and trying to shape the product according to what they want. So I think it's one very important key to success, to have that sense respond relationship with your customers and the community, and all your customers within different customer segments.
Yeah. And to talk more about the product, about the data, because it's like you say, I think a lot of people were of the perception that maybe it was much bigger than it is, and it's like this flight tracking app, but I think under the hood it's much more, right? It's a data company. It's a true data company.
Yes. Yes.
Can you share a little bit about how your teams approach data ideation, productization? What sets you apart?
It's also a very good question, and it's also something that people usually don't know about us. As you are saying, that we are a true data company, that we are collecting data ourselves, that we are doing that very advanced data processing, and then building our dashboards, website, and mobile apps, and so on. So it includes both software development, but also hardware development. And how we are approaching, it's also, since I have been involved in those data community for many years, I think although people have been talking about big data, machine learning nowadays, AI, and everything related to data for a long time, it's still not clear. People don't distinguish two different areas. One is data that are used for in analytics purposes. The another is operational data that is part of your product. And when data is part of your product, it's called data as a product strategy. And then, so I see, like now I'm talking not only about Flightradar, but also other companies who are working with the data, that maybe they didn't adopt that strategy type principle, how you build your data architecture, your system architecture, in order to support data as a product. So I think it's a very important key, and it's something that we are working on, because what are the properties of a data as a product is that, for example, data are easily accessible, readily available, and somehow you organize the data pipelines that you don't cause maybe data inconsistency in the system, that you ensure data trustworthiness, and so on. But a short answer on a complex question is to apply data as a product strategy and think about that. So now I'm not talking about data for analytic purposes, but data that are part of your product.
Yeah. And I think something that really stands out for me is like how the same product, essentially the same, Flightradar here, or the same data sets that are kind of being created can serve so many different audiences, essentially. You've mentioned having B2C, B2B customers and everything. And it can be used in completely different ways depending on who is using it, right? So a casual user might be tracking a friend's flight or geeking out over, rare aircraft models or whatever it might be, while airline operations, the teams there might be using it to feed monitor or monitor airspace congestion and stuff like that. So it's more a question of or ideas around what are some of the most impactful ways that your data is being used by these different customers as both B2B and B2C.
Yes, as you said, we have different customer segments, both within B2C, but even in B2B, and some of them are completely different group of people. I think we can say regarding our features and products that we offer, so different segments of customers, maybe they're using the same data sets, they just want to have presented them in different ways, different flavors of the same product. And so, for example, is when you're checking someone who is traveling, like if it is your children or friends and so on, ordinary people, they don't know all those technical details, what is altitude of the plane when it should start, when it takes off or it starts landing and so on. So we just need to adjust the language or features on the our website, in our apps, so that is for that group of people. But that's why we also have a different level of business subscriptions, and usually each subscriptions, each level has a different set of features and presented in a different way, so that aiming towards different customer segments. But of course, there is one thing that we are improving all the time, but we need to be even better. As I mentioned, it started as a hobby project, and the main customer base or customer segment at that time, it was radio amateurs, aviation geeks, people who knows all those specifications, so you can just express feature very technically and they would understand. But now we improved a lot of our features, but some of them are not maybe completely user friendly for ordinary people that are not aviation specialists. So it's something that we are constantly improving in our features. But I can say different statistic for different airports, airlines, all group of customers are interested in, but maybe because of the different reasons.
And a lot of these are kind of, real-time data for businesses, but also kind of historical data as well for these more kind of predictive analytics and stuff, right? Presumably.
Yes, exactly. And there are so many, when I joined Flightradar, it was the first time when I joined the aviation industry to work there. And then before that, you believe, it's only airlines and airports that are part of the aviation industry. But in fact, it's not. There are a lot of different companies like aircraft manufacturers. Then it's a separate company who maintains the aircraft. Then pilot training is completely separate section. So you have so many different companies and people, different customer segments within aviation interested in your data.
Yep.
Then I like to say that aviation data creates a value to humankind that is much broader than just aviation itself. Why? Because a very important part of then ADS-B signal, it's weather data, because weather conditions are very important for pilots.
Yep.
And because we are collecting, they're sending data, and then you can calculate, because of the aircraft speed, you can calculate wind speed and so on. So we are selling weather data to weather companies which don't have a meteorological, meteo stations in faraway places where we have our receivers. Even non-profit companies are using our data trying to predict natural disasters in non-developed countries.
Yep.
So I think it's just some examples how our data creates a value much even outside the aviation industry and outside just aviation specialists.
Yeah. No, exactly. And even in kind of climate research as well. And that's what I mean. That's something that really stood out to me from the start, that this same data can be used across so many different users, which is really fascinating. But to talk a little bit about just some technical challenges, cross-team kind of collaboration, what are the most interesting or difficult technical challenges you've faced in your role?
Yes, so we can start with as I just explained, that we both develop software but also hardware, and those receivers. So we design ourselves PCB, circuit boards, and so on. And for many people, especially coming from agile software development, that try to apply it on hardware development, it's not the same principles how you have a small iteration, how you test your software, and how you do with hardware. You can't achieve like exactly the same agile methodology or lean methodology principles on that. So just to align that hardware releases and software releases, I can say it's a very interesting challenge. I'm very happy that we are doing that hardware. And also like in hardware, maybe some projects are much more longer projects, R&D projects, not just like in software that you can break down in smaller releases. And I think one interesting challenge is maybe it can be generally applied on all R&D projects. When is R&D phase ended, and when you start delivery of the thing? Because sometimes you can wait too long so that your proof of concept is almost production ready, or vice versa, that you start enforcing like short iteration, although it's not ready. So I can say just merging that hardware development world with the software development, aligning. So it's one challenge. The another challenge that we have at Flightradar, it's those sudden peaks in traffic that occurs. So usually, like at other companies that develop products offering software, they're saying, oh, maybe we are going to do those marketing activities, then we will like do some promotions, then people will be more engaged, and then you can calculate and predict number of concurrent users of the system and so on. So, and therefore you can plan to scale up your architecture. For us, those traffic peaks happen suddenly. Some famous person start flying. We don't have that information in our systems. We have just about planes and so on. But usually those people who are tracking those famous people, someone posts on Twitter and then posts a link on Flightradar. Oh, let's track this person. And everyone comes on our site. Yeah. So it can be usually we have 100 of thousands people tracking the same plane, but it can up to several millions of people tracking at the same time. How you design your scalable architecture to handle those peaks that you can't predict?
Exactly. That was going to be my precise question, right? Because what does it take to design and maintain a data infrastructure at that scale? I mean, you've got to ensure that it remains resilient, right? So how do you?
Yes, it's not that I can't reveal all the details, but I think it's important first to be aware about the challenge, and also you want to find a good balance. Of course, you can pay a lot of money to have all the time very scalable architecture, but usually those peaks does not happen so often, so you don't want to pay for so many peaks. But what we are doing, for example, one solution that works well for us, that we are having a hybrid infrastructure, both combination of cloud providers and our own data center, and trying to see what we can control ourselves and what is beneficial. Yes, but it's much more from part of the system that we think what should be beneficial for us. If we want to have auto scaling AWS or somewhere else, or we would like to be able to scale up and scale down ourselves. But maybe the answer is to have a kind of hybrid infrastructure.
Yeah. And how do you encourage effective collaboration between technical and non-technical teams, especially when you're working across different domains, essentially?
I think the key thing is to be able to explain the big picture, the wanted outcome, the product strategy, but show them the link also. Don't only to say oh, we need to develop this, or this is product strategy, this is the products, but also show to them how they everyday work contribute to that, and remind them all the time. But I think also that big picture, holistic picture, it's important that you all the time remind them. And of course, it's natural that developers or individual contributors focus on their specialist areas, and it should be like that. So I think it's a leadership task, managerial task, to remind them all the time, we are going there, we are doing that they have that holistic picture, because it will help them to design the best technical solution in this case. Because, within technology, you always, the beauty of that is you always have many different technological solutions that will work. But in order to choose what is the best for you at that point of time, you need to understand what is that you want to achieve high level, why you are doing that. Yes. And then usually when you talk about those big pictures, you're using a language that is under that both product people can understand, technical people, business people, and so on. But I think that reminding people high-level goals, high-level plans all the time, and trying to explain complex things in a simple way, that is very difficult, but you need to put an effort in that.
Yeah. And when it comes to a product that, particularly for, companies, enterprise clients, that might be using the data. I mean, this is a product that's so kind of deeply rooted in precision and reliability and everything. How do you create space at the same time for exploration, experimentation in the product?
Yes, it's also a good question, because data quality is the most important thing for us. So we are never releasing, we really want to assure that data quality, data trustworthiness. It's something that we are aiming for, because although our website and the apps are not professional tools for pilot, but all pilots are using that as a helping tool, and safety first is within aviation. So we really need to be sure that data that we deliver is of a high quality and trustworthy, that you can rely on the data. Of course, testing is very important, but also equally important is that end-to-end thinking, especially for data. Because if you're just testing different parts of the system, but to end-to-end and think about that since you start creating the product, to think about that end-to-end, what you want to achieve, I think it contributes a lot about to the quality, product quality that we deliver. So it's not just testing and allowing people to try to experiment things and so on.
Yeah. And before we start to wrap up a little bit here, I'd like to look ahead a little bit. Are there any emerging technologies or trends, whether it's in aviation or data infrastructure or product development, that you're particularly excited about right now?
Yes, of course. Everyone is excited about AI and how it can help us. Yeah. Yes, of course. I think, of course, when people talking about AI, usually you hear first a lot of positive things. Now lately, it's so many negative things. I see on AI just a new tool that can help us a lot if we are smart in order how we use that. So I think for do precise calculations, like in all those areas, not only aviation, maybe biotech industry, or for experiments when you need to use those things to really achieve a high level of a precise calculation, it can help a lot. So it's one thing, of course, I think within the whole tech, it's like you are thinking how AI can help us, or machine learning, or so on, from then technology wise. And also we are interesting since we are building hardware, even in a chip production, how it is going, what are the latest innovations done there. But even from the aviation data perspective, when we are talking about that ADS-B signal, there is going to be a new format. They're going to enrich the data, and it's a worldwide regulation. So that ADS-B signal is going to contain much more data than today, and I think is going to give us much more possibilities for future and some future new products that we can build in the future.
And what more data is it going to give than it gives today? Because today it gives position of the aircraft, right?
Yes, GPS position, then something that is called call sign, that is unique identifier for each flight. It's not flight number, but something that like pilots and the ATC like communicate and agree about, and some weather data. So they're going to extend more about weather data, but also some performances. So yes, but we need to bear in mind that aviation industry is a very slow moving industry. So it's a negative consequence of that safety first. Everything needs to be checked. So there are pros and cons of those, that new things are not coming every second month. So it's also beneficial. You don't have to adjust your software every second month for a new data format. But of course, yes, but it's a general, development and new possibilities that it will open. I'm really looking forward to it.
Fantastic. And in addition to this, is there anything you can share, areas your team's exploring that you're especially excited about right now? Anything that you're working on at Flightradar that you can talk about?
Oh yes, maybe not not me. Maybe it's like a product and business people can. Yes.
Got you.
Yes.
But to close us out, then, what advice would you give to individuals who aspire to take on technical leadership roles like yours, especially those like looking to bridge engineering and business as you have done?
As I said at the beginning of this podcast, first motivation and genuine interest. Don't do that just if it is the only career path at your company, but you are not interested in that, because I think it's not good for you as an individual. You're not going to be happy. The company is not going to be happy. So it's the first thing, that you really feel that you have that interest. Then observe yourself, be self-aware, observe the others, read a lot about leadership, read about psychology, because it's very like intertwined, leadership and psychology. So I think start from there. And it's also always, for me, it's so beneficial. I'm always talking to so many different people, not only my role models, because usually you don't have a role model that covers all the areas that you would like, how you would like to develop, but pick of that. And also another thing that I'm going to wrap up this, that is so important, that you as a leader create your personal leadership vision and mission in life. What drives you to be a leader? Not only connected to your job assignments, but what are the drives and how you can become better leader? And also related to self-leadership, I strongly believe if you work on yourself, if you are a better leader to yourself, you're going to be better leader for the others.
Yep. Fantastic advice. Is there anything you would like to add, Mina, before I wrap up here?
No, I just wanted to thank you for this very nice conversation. And I really like that you created this type of podcast where we are talking about such important themes, tech, leadership, business, because people, as I just advised, by listening to such a podcast, you can learn a lot and you can shape your leadership by taking some good advices. So I'm really thankful that you're doing such type of podcast.
Thank you for saying. It's been really, really interesting to hear your perspectives on team building, leadership, sustainable growth, power of data, aviation data for different user groups. I mean, we've covered a hell of a lot here. So really, big thanks for joining us on the podcast today.
Thank you.
Thanks. And to our listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe to Builders, leave a review, share it with fellow builders. Until next time, stay curious and keep building. We'll see you soon.